Buddhism says, anger is poison. It burns the one who holds it. Let it go. Stoicism says, anger is a choice, a false judgment you can correct with reason. Vedanta says, anger comes from ego. When you recognize no separation, anger dissolves. Taoism says, anger is resistance to the Tao. Flow naturally. Anger loses its grip. But what if anger is pointing at real injustice? What if letting go means letting evil win? Before we begin, let's clarify what we're talking about. Dvesha, in Sanskrit, means aversion, hatred. One of the three roots of suffering in Buddhism. Along with greed and ignorance, hatred destroys peace. It destroys wisdom. It destroys you. Pratiga, in Pali, is repulsion. Anger, the mental state that pushes away what you don't want. An obstacle to peace. Metta and mudita are Buddhist practices. Metta is loving kindness. Mudita is empathetic joy. Both are direct antidotes to anger. You cannot hold anger and loving kindness in your heart at the same time. Thumos, in Greek, is spirited passion. Plato and the Stoics recognized it as necessary, but it must be governed by logos, reason, passion subordinate to wisdom. Dikaiosune is the Greek word for justice, one of the four cardinal virtues in Stoicism. The Stoics fought for justice, but they didn't need anger to do it. Krodha, in Sanskrit, is anger. One of the 6 enemies of the mind in Vedanta, along with desire, greed, delusion, pride, and envy. You feel anger, sometimes over small things. A driver cutting you off, a rude comment, sometimes over real injustice, betrayal, cruelty, oppression. But anger is dangerous. It can consume you, and anger can be necessary. It can motivate you to act. How do you navigate this? Here is an ancient teaching from the Buddhist tradition. A disciple came to the Buddha, furious. Master, a man insulted me gravely. He slandered me. He lied about me. I'm enraged. The Buddha picked up a burning coal from the fire. He held it out to the disciple. Hold this. The disciple pulled back. No, it will burn me. The Buddha said, exactly. You want to throw this coal at the person who insulted you. But while you hold it, waiting for the opportunity, who is burning? Holding anger is like holding a hot coal with the intent to throw it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned first. The disciple asked, but what if the person deserves punishment? What if they did something terrible? The Buddha replied, justice doesn't require anger. You can act to correct injustice without carrying coals. Act with wisdom, not with heat. We live in an age of outrage. The internet amplifies anger. Clickbait headlines, polarization, tribal warfare. Everyone is outraged about something. All the time. Anger has become performative, a virtue to be signaled. Look how angry I am about this injustice. As if anger proves moral superiority. At the same time, there's toxic suppression. Never get angry, always be calm. This creates pressure. And eventually, explosions. There's confusion about righteous anger. Don't social movements need anger? Civil rights. Feminism. Revolution. Doesn't anger fuel necessary change? But sustained anger burns out activists, leaves them exhausted, bitter, broken. And some people become addicted to outrage. The dopamine hit of being furious. Constantly seeking the next thing to rage about. Culture sends mixed messages. Be kind, forgive. But also, be outraged by injustice. How do you reconcile this? Self-help says release your anger, or never get angry. Both extremes are useless. These 4 traditions offer nuance. Anger is a problem, and anger can point to real problems. The question isn't, should I feel anger or not? It's, what do I do when anger arises? Buddhism begins with a diagnosis. Anger is one of the three poisons. Greed, hatred, ignorance. These three destroy you from within. Anger burns the one who feels it first, like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. The Dhammapada teaches, he abused me, he struck me, he overpowered me, he robbed me. Those who harbor such thoughts do not still their hatred, for hatred does not cease by hatred at any time. Hatred ceases by love. This is an eternal law. Anger doesn't end anger. Only love ends anger. This isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Buddhism teaches metta, loving kindness, as the direct antidote to anger. You cannot feel anger and metta simultaneously. They're incompatible. When anger arises, practice metta. First toward yourself. May I be free from anger. May I be at peace. Then toward the person you're angry with. May they be free from suffering. This doesn't excuse their actions. It frees you from the poison. But here's what's important. Buddhism doesn't teach passivity, especially not engaged Buddhism, the tradition developed by Thich Nhat Hanh. You can act against injustice without hatred. You can stop an oppressor with compassion for both the oppressed and the oppressor. Thich Nhat Hanh protested the Vietnam War, not with rage, with compassion, with clarity, with wisdom, and he was more effective because of it. The distinction is crucial. Compassionate action is not the same as anger. You can correct wrong without burning with hatred. What Buddhism offers: liberation from anger through compassion. Action for justice without being consumed by rage. What to watch out for. This can become passivity. Never get angry can mean never stand up for yourself. But that's not what the Buddha taught, and compassion for the oppressor can be misused to justify inaction. But compassion doesn't mean accepting harm. It means responding wisely, not reactively. Try this practice. Next time anger arises, before you react, 3 deep breaths. Then ask, can I respond with wisdom instead of reactivity? You're not suppressing the anger. You're choosing a wise response. Now Stoicism enters with a different analysis. Stoics say, anger is a false judgment. You judge something as intolerable. But is it? You're tolerating it right now. You're surviving. You can respond. Anger is not necessary for justice. You can correct injustice calmly, rationally, strategically, without rage clouding your judgment. Seneca wrote an entire book on this, De Ira, on anger. He called anger temporary madness, a loss of reason, a dangerous state. Marcus Aurelius wrote, how much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the circumstances that aroused them. The damage you do in anger, to yourself, to relationships, to your reputation, often far exceeds the original offense. The Stoics taught prososche, vigilant attention. Watch your impressions. Intercept them before they become anger. Someone insults you. That's the impression. Before it becomes anger, examine it. Is this true? Does it harm my character, my virtue? No? Then why would I let it disturb me? Most anger comes from wounded ego, not from actual harm. When you see this clearly, anger loses its grip. Epictetus taught, remember that it is not he who reviles you or strikes you who insults you, but it is your opinion about these things as being insulting. It's not the event. It's your judgment about the event. Change the judgment, and the anger dissolves. This doesn't mean you don't act. It means you act from reason, not from rage, from virtue, not from wounded pride. The Stoics recognized thumos, spirited passion. It's natural, human, but it must be governed by logos, reason, passion subordinate to wisdom. You can feel the heat of anger rising, but you pause, you examine, you choose, you respond virtuously. That's Stoic strength. What Stoicism offers: rational control over anger. Recognition that anger is a choice, not an inevitability. and the ability to act for justice without rage. What to watch out for. This can become emotional suppression. Stoic, in modern usage, often means doesn't feel. But Stoics felt deeply. They just didn't let feelings control them. And rationalization can dismiss legitimate anger. Sometimes your gut is telling you something important. Don't always override it with logic. Try this practice. When anger arises, pause for 10 seconds. Ask, in 10 years, will this matter? If not, it's not worth your peace now. If yes, respond with reason, not rage. Now Vedanta offers a third perspective. Vedanta says, anger is one of the 6 enemies of the mind. Kama, desire, krodha, anger, lobha, greed, moha, delusion, mada, pride, matsarya, envy. These 6 destroy inner peace. Anger is particularly dangerous because it arises so quickly, so automatically, so powerfully. But where does anger come from? The ego. I was disrespected. I was wronged. I was insulted. But when you recognize Atman, your true nature, the question becomes, who is angry? The ego feels threatened, but the Atman, eternal, unchanging, untouched. The Bhagavad Gita traces the path of destruction. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. From attachment develops desire, and from desire arises anger. From anger comes delusion. From delusion, loss of memory. From loss of memory, destruction of discrimination. And from destruction of discrimination, one perishes. Anger isn't the beginning. It's a step in a process, and if unchecked, it leads to complete destruction of wisdom. But Vedanta doesn't teach withdrawal. The Bhagavad Gita is a call to action. Krishna tells Arjuna, fight, but fight without hatred. Act as an instrument of dharma, cosmic duty, not as wounded ego seeking revenge. This is karma yoga applied to justice. You act to correct imbalance, not because you're personally offended, but because it's the right thing to do. When there's no ego claiming ownership of the offense, there's no anger, just clear action. What Vedanta offers, action without ego. You can confront injustice without personal rage because there's no person being offended, just consciousness observing and responding. What to watch out for. There is no ego, can become emotional coldness, and it can be used to avoid responsibility. It's all illusion. Doesn't mean harm isn't real. Try this practice. When anger arises, ask, who is angry? The ego is angry, but I, the Atman, the witness, observe the anger. I'm not the anger, I witness it. Don't suppress it. Don't identify with it. Observe it like passing weather in the sky of eternal consciousness. Finally, Taoism offers a fourth way. Taoism says, anger is resistance. You want reality to be different than it is. You're fighting against the Tao, and that fight exhausts you. Wu Wei, non-forcing, dissolves much unnecessary anger. When you stop resisting what is, anger loses its fuel. Think about it. When are you angry? When reality doesn't match your expectations. Someone should have behaved differently. Something shouldn't have happened. The world should be fair. But the Tao doesn't care about your expectations. It flows naturally, impersonally, without judgment. Zhuangzi told a story about boats. If you're crossing a river and an empty boat collides with yours, you might be startled, but you won't be angry. It's just an empty boat. But if you see a person in the boat, you'll shout. If they don't hear, you'll shout again, and then you'll start cursing. Now you're angry. What changed? You projected intention. You assumed malice. The empty boat taught you. Most of what angers you is projection. What if you treated everything like an empty boat? Events without personal malice toward you. Would anger still arise as easily? The Tao Te Ching says, the highest good is like water. Water gives life to all things and does not strive. Water flows around obstacles. It doesn't get angry at rocks. It doesn't rage at the riverbank. It simply flows, naturally, effortlessly. What Taoism offers: peace through acceptance. Anger diminishes when you stop demanding that the world be different. What to watch out for: accept everything can become moral passivity, not standing against evil. And Taoism lacks clear ethical direction. The Tao doesn't care about human justice. Try this practice. When something angers you, imagine, what if this was an empty boat? What if it wasn't personal? You're not denying harm, just removing the projection of malicious intent. See if anger decreases. Now let's test all four with real scenarios. First scenario: you've been betrayed professionally. A colleague stole your work, got credit for it. You were harmed. You're furious, justifiably. How does each tradition respond? The Buddhist response: your anger is natural, but it's burning you first. The person who betrayed you may be sleeping fine. You, consumed by fire. Observe the anger. Feel the heat in your chest, the tension in your jaw. Just sensations, temporary, impermanent. Practice metta, not to excuse their action, but to free yourself. May I be free from anger. May the other person be free from the greed that caused this. Then act, with wisdom, not reactivity. Document what happened. Speak to superiors calmly. Correct the injustice, but without carrying coals. Engaged Buddhism teaches you can seek justice without hatred. Thich Nhat Hanh protested war with compassion, not rage. Compassionate justice is possible, and more effective, because your mind is clear, not clouded by anger. The Stoic response: examine the judgment. This is intolerable. Is it really? You're tolerating it. You survived. You can respond. Apply the dichotomy of control. You don't control what they did. You control your response. Anger doesn't improve your response, it worsens it, makes you reactive, irrational. Seneca said, anger is temporary madness. Never make decisions when angry. Act coldly, rationally. Present facts. Seek correction. If you don't get external justice, maintain internal justice, your virtue intact. Practice prosoche. Intercept the impression. He betrayed me. Examine. He acted from weakness of character. This reveals about him, not about me. My virtue doesn't depend on others' actions. You control your integrity, your dignified response. That's sufficient. The Vedanta response: who was betrayed? The ego was betrayed. The Atman observes the ego feeling anger but is not touched by it. This doesn't mean don't act. It means act without personal identification with the drama. Karma yoga. Correct the injustice as your dharma, cosmic duty, not for ego revenge, for balance. Remember, this person acts from avidya, ignorance. They've forgotten unity. They act as if separate, so they harm others. You act from jnana, knowledge. You know unity, so you correct, like the right hand helping the left when it's injured. Action without hatred, correction without anger, justice without ego. The Taoist response: anger comes from broken expectations. You expected ethical behavior. The Tao brought the opposite. Wu Wei, accept that this happened. This doesn't mean approve. It means stop the mental fight with reality. Now respond naturally. An empty boat collided with you. You don't get angry. You adjust your course. Do the same here. Maybe natural action is confronting them calmly. Maybe it's leaving for a place where integrity is valued. Feel the flow. Holding anger is like holding a stone waiting to throw it, but you carry the weight. Drop the stone. Act lightly. Second scenario: you witness clear discrimination, racism, for example. Anger arises, but this anger is different. It's not personal. It's moral. How do you use it without being consumed? The Buddhist response. Engaged Buddhism says, anger points to a real problem. Use that energy, but transform it. Thich Nhat Hanh taught, when your house is on fire, first put out the fire, then investigate the cause. Fight injustice, but maintain metta. Compassion for the oppressed, obviously, and for the oppressor, difficult. They're trapped in avidya, ignorance. This doesn't mean be weak. It means be strong without hatred. Martin Luther King Jr. studied Buddhism, radical nonviolence, energy of anger, compassionate wisdom, powerful action without being consumed. The Stoic response, dikaiosune, justice, is a cardinal virtue. You must act. But anger isn't necessary. Anger clouds judgment, makes you tactically sloppy. Act from principle, not emotion, coolly, strategically, effectively. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire, faced injustice, not with rage, with reason. You control your testimony, your voice, your action, your moral courage. You don't control whether change comes quickly, whether you're recognized. Act because it's right, not because anger compels you. Virtue is sufficient. The Vedanta response, discrimination is maximum avidya, forgetting that all are Brahman. Your dharma, correct this. Krishna taught Arjuna, fight when dharma demands it, but without personal hatred. You're not punishing, you're restoring cosmic balance. Recognize, oppressor and oppressed are both Brahman forgotten. One forgot through cruelty, the other through suffering. Act to awaken both. Karma yoga applied to social justice. The Taoist response, the Tao doesn't judge humans, but when a system is imbalanced, naturally a movement arises to rebalance. You can be that movement. If it's natural for you, then Wu Wei is action. But beware. Sustained anger exhausts. Activism fueled by rage burns the activist out. Activism aligned with the Tao sustains. Act because it's natural, not because anger pushes you. Subtle but vital difference. All four traditions recognize anger as a problem. It burns the one who feels it, but all four also say, you can act for justice without anger. Buddhism, transform anger into compassion, then act with wisdom. Stoicism, anger is irrational, act from reason, not emotion. Act with virtue. Vedanta, anger comes from ego, act from Atman without personal identification. Taoism, anger is resistance, accept reality, then respond naturally. The question isn't, can I be angry? It's, what do I do when anger arises? Am I dominated by it, or do I use the energy wisely? You've completed 7 episodes, 7 fundamental dilemmas, suffering and pain, change versus acceptance, time and impermanence, death and mortality, fear and courage, and now anger and justice. You've learned from 4 ancient wisdom traditions. You've seen where they agree, where they contradict, where you'll have to choose. But there's more. The second half of this series goes deeper. Questions about the nature of self, about desire, about meaning, about how to actually live these philosophies. The journey continues. What makes you angry? And is that anger protecting something that needs protecting, or protecting an ego that needs dissolving? Tell me on the comments. I will love to hear. You've learned about suffering, change, time, death, fear, and anger. But now, deeper questions await. Who are you really? What should you do with desire? How do you find meaning? The second half begins next time. See you there.